very happy day for the people gathered in this Zoom call today, because they have been working very hard for more than a year already to present this very important game to you. Starlight Stadium is the name of the new gamification tool for human rights defenders. It was created by Benetech in partnership with OSCE, Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. And today we have about 8 people in this call, and they will share their experience with you how to turn very important materials into game and make a very useful tool. And who, if not David Mark, should join us now. He has been the project lead for Starlight Stadium, and he will tell us more about why, what was the vision behind this tool, and how the entire process go. David, please join us.
Yes, thank you, Nina. Thank you all for being here. It's really for me special to see all the team members, everybody who worked on this. Actually, it's not everybody. I want to say from the start, there's way more people who worked on this and who contributed, human rights defenders. I'll get to that. I want to name some of them that really had very important contributions. But I'm really happy to have here so many of our team members. Some people, just to say, some people are not with Odir anymore. They have better jobs and I'm also very happy for that. And they have moved along, and some of them are still with us. So yeah, maybe to start about why did we want to create this this tool. It really started with thinking about how we can scale up the work that we do. At Odir, one of our mandates is to support human rights defenders in the work that they do, to support them with training, with capacity building, to support them politically where we can. And for that, back already in 2016, we started creating a number of programs meant to train them, like on digital security. How can you do your work online in a very safe manner, or how you can do a human rights monitoring in a way that it's accurate, it's good, it's going to help you in your advocacy. And and actually most of the colleagues here have been part of that process. And at one point we were thinking, but we're doing this this work offline. So this is really classic classroom teaching, and we reach only as many human rights defenders. So we would reach maybe 25, if we're lucky, 50, maybe 100 per year. And it's really just not enough, we thought, in terms of supporting the human rights movement. So with that in mind, we started thinking, how about we bring around a bunch of software developers, creative people, psychologists, neuroscientists, people who know about human rights education and education in general. And we had an event in the US. And here I do have to mention first 2 names, Laura Liguri from MindBridge, and Keith Hyatt, who used to work with Benetech at the time. Now he's with the UN, who were instrumental in kind of helping us get to this vision. How about using a game? I remember Laura showing us some slides with Pac-Man and talking about how game for learning is good for fast cognitive processes, for knowledge retention, for immersion. And we're like, why shouldn't we try that? And then, so beyond these learning elements, another thing that was interesting for us is that we can reach a lot of people. So there you go. We decided to start working on this, and it was not easy. From that idea, with Laura, with Keith, with Anastasia. Also, I should mention Anastasia Fusco, who worked in the team at the time and helped us organize all those events. Yeah, we got into it, but it was just an idea. And then there's many of the people here who you see on screen who joined and who basically were part of the bulk of the development. Joanna, Rachel, but they're gonna talk more about that, about their role and their experience with the game. So maybe just a few more things that I want to share is that we want with this game to help human rights defenders, to support them. They are having a hard time. Many of them see an encroaching space. Many of them, experience very difficult situations while they do their work. And this is a game that is created for them to test themselves, maybe to learn new skills, and generally to stay safe while they do their work. And it's also important to mention, we also had human rights defenders as part of the entire development process. We have Andrej here, and also Vesta. I hope that she can join us in a bit. And also a lot of testing with other human rights defenders. I cannot name them all. So maybe these are just some of a few of the things that I wanted to share initially. And yeah.
Thank you, David, very much. We will come back to you with more questions. But now it's time to ask Rachel to join us. She was the person responsible on the game from Benetech's side. So to my understanding, she was the person who was leading this bunch of developers and designers and creative minds who are working on the game. Rachel, if you can tell us very briefly, like for those people who have not heard much about the game, what is Starlight Stadium, like very briefly, and also tell us what has been the most challenging work from your side while designing and developing this game.
Sure. So I think from Benetech's side, and Benetech is an organization that creates software for social good. And so for us, we're always looking for how can software create impact that's sort of outside the effort that is put in. And so the vision really with this game and as developed with David has really been how can we make sort of the best parts of these in-person trainings that ODIHR has done so well reach more people. And so as David said, we've worked really closely with the folks that we're hoping to reach to be able to get there. And the process of creating it was also a learning process for us to sort of continue to refine, continue to find out what helps people learn. And so we had some really great insights from the human rights defenders and others who helped us test about how can you create a great game that really helps people learn and learn from their mistakes in a way that's then in a safe environment. That doesn't reflect the sort of insecurities and risks that are true for human rights defenders in their work in the daily sort of real world space. So that has been a great part of this experience. The challenge really has been that as we learn as we go, game development is not something for the weak of heart, and certainly it's something that doing it right is a lot of details. So there was a lot of effort and a lot of contributors making sure that the content was right and that what we were teaching human rights defenders was in fact the correct content, and that was going to teach them good habits that kept them safe in the real world, as well as help them get accurate information that was going to keep them credible and reach their human rights goals. And in human rights work, that's always a balance that we face. So finding that balance to present to human rights defenders in a way that we felt was responsible, but then also bringing in all of the pieces to make it an entertaining game, so that it wasn't just learning objectives, but also something that was exciting and brought in sort of all of the best parts of the excitement of this kind of work.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to ask you one more question. Like usually when I talk some representatives of the civil society organizations, they are into this like gamification idea and they want to use the same methodology for their own projects. But it's always the question about like how long does it take and what are the stages? If you could briefly tell us like what are the stages, like what is the process like to work on a game like this?
Sure, and actually, one of the things that's interesting about this game is that there are many sort of learning materials now that have gamified, and that they give you badges and sort of a leaderboard and ways to feel like you're playing a game while you're doing some learning. And this approach actually was simulation, in that we try and put people in the shoes of a human rights defender and have them learn sort of in a simulated environment that we try to make feel like the real world as much as possible. And then we add things like badges and helping people sort of feel success along the way. And so I think that's a really important piece of this, is that the more you can make simulation the mode, so that people are actually failing and learning from their failings as well as from their successes in a way that feels real, I think the more people learn from the game experience. Your question again, remind me again, sorry, Nino, your question.
What were the stages? Like, if you could split the entire process into stages, like what are those like?
Yeah, so with any development, and particularly for something that's like this, it's a bit new, that there's not a lot of sort of precedent for. We did a lot of failing early. So we created, even before Starlight Stadium was a concept, we created a game that gave us an idea of how do we approach creating a game to teach. And we learned these important lessons around allowing people to fail and giving them that sort of feedback around getting the wrong answer and what, how to go about things the next time. So we did a bunch of early prototypes and did a huge amount of testing with human rights defenders and other experts in the space to get feedback on it. The same with Starlight Stadium. Once that became a concept and we had sort of at least this narrative more or less in place, we did a ton of testing as well with lots of human rights defenders really around the world. Joanna was instrumental in some of that really early testing and guiding us in the right direction, especially. So we did also a lot of failing and learning from that failing. So in some ways it's very meta in that we through the process were integrating what we had learned into the game in the same way that we hope players will integrate what they learn from the game into their work.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And we have Tyler Law in our Zoom conversation. He is a co-founder at Scoutable, and also he contributed a lot to designing and like shaping the game as it is right now. Tyler, if you can share with us, Rachel mentioned that it has like designing a game to teach has its own like specifics. Like, what is this what is the major thing that differentiates a game to teach from the other games, like games for entertainment, and like what should the other civil society organizations keep in mind when they think of applying gamification to their projects?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, I came on fairly early into the project, and what was obvious to me with what they were trying to build and also the team composition is that there was a lot of content and a lot of things they needed to deliver, and needed to make sure to also deliver it very just very accurately, because it's things that could be potentially put somebody at risk, if it was wrong, or if we were a little blasé about it, had a little fun with it. So initially, they just wanted, there was a goal to really tell this story and tell people how to do things right. But as Rachel mentioned, what we found is like that's very dry, and the biggest learning moments people definitely had is when they're allowed to fail in a safe place. And doing some fun things like inserting little red herrings or little jokes sometimes, make it so a player has a little treat as they go along. You definitely see some games in the entertainment world that can play much more with mechanics or with failure, or allowing you to do some like really wildly creative things and stuff like that. And that is also really important to learning in a game. But at the same time, what I thought was important for this team when I came on was to focus on that content, and was to focus on just getting that out there and figuring it out, and not spending forever iterating on cycles of, oh, is it fun to build a base or something like that in this game? So yeah, I think right away it was important to figure out not just that we wanted to use a game, but what type of game we wanted to use, what the team composition was to build that game. Like, what are all the people that you have that you're going to pull together to make this? And that's what put us going towards an adventure game. And I think it was definitely the right choice based on the content that we had and the team composition that we had. Yeah, so as far as lessons learned for teaching in games, I think the easiest one is that allowing people to fail safely is really important. I think that's the easiest one. There's a lot of lessons though, and a lot of tricks and a lot of things like we done with teaching in games. And there's entire books written on it. But I would definitely say our big takeaway was definitely allowing people to fail safely is very important.
That's very important tip to share. Thank you very much, Tyler. Joanna has been mentioned by like everyone almost now. Joanna, please join us. So right now, Joanna is working at OSF as a Open Society Foundations as a program specialist. However, in the early days or early months of this game, she was the lead producer, and she was managing all this like testing and bringing the first versions of the game to the human rights defenders and getting feedback from them. Joanna, I want to ask you, what do you see is the biggest value of this game?
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Thanks a lot for having me here. I think one of the biggest values of this game is that it merges basically three lines. It's joy, it's a story, it's adventure, right? It brings you emotionally into the situation. It has very clear learning goals connected to very specific real life skills. So you will learn, if you play, you'll figure it out. You see like, how do I connect safely, or how do I do that? How do I do that? So these are really skills that you can translate out. And you also have a real human rights case. You have a story that is reality out there that people face, something not only on the human rights defender side to do the work for evidence and justice and accountability, but also the realities of our world where we have human rights violations. And so this game really manages to merge all of these three aspects together into one case and takes you on a journey through this case. So you can take all of these experiences away, and I think this is really special. And I'm really happy that it's out there right now. And yeah, any feedback is really appreciated as well. Thanks.
Thank you. So once Joanna left ODR, Mattia joined the team, and he took over the role of lead producer of the game. And he oversaw the second stage of the development, focused on the art development, demoing, testing, and the final refinements of the project, like the fun part of the work. Mattia, if you can share with us your experience, how was it to work on this project? And if you have also some tips for the many other organizations following the same route of gamifying their projects and their trainings.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have to say it was really exciting for me because I'm a bit of a gamer myself, right? So for me, it was also about putting together what I believe in, what I work for, so all human rights for all, with what I sometimes like to do in my spare time, which is play video games. And so it was really exciting to try to put together the two things and deliver a product that right, but there's also the gamification around it. And doing that was not easy, but it was also really exciting to identify what are the mechanisms that are successful in games and transfer them to a learning game. So for example, we integrated mini games, failure and reward mechanisms, and as we said, but yeah, like brainstorming around the table for me was really exciting. Like the creative process was really nice. And I also value a lot the interdisciplinary approach behind it, because as David said, there's a lot of different points of view converging and making this a tool that is, I think, strikes the right balance between delivering, like safe learning objectives, telling people how to stay away from harm and do no harm, but also that entertains and gathers the gamer's attention, let's say. And with regards to tips for next projects of the sort is trying to also make it entertaining, also make it have those mechanisms that keep the attention of the player while learning, because it's situational learning, right? Like you are thrown into a context, to a virtual context that resembles reality as much as we can reproduce it. And that really enhances knowledge retention, I think.
Mattia, you mentioned that you are a gamer yourself. I want to ask you an honest question, like, would you play this game in your spare time if it wasn't your job?
That's a very difficult question. I can say I've played it many times, for sure. And I'm really curious to see the final product. And for sure, I mean, it's kind of our baby, as we call it. So for sure, I will play it again.
Thank you very much, Mattia. So the next speaker in this very nice panel we have is Marine Constant. She will be joining UN soon as an Associate Knowledge Management Officer. But before that, she used to work with ODR as a member of the capacity building team. And as I understand, she is the person behind collecting all the materials and the content of the game, how to like put everything in this fun training tool. Marin, if you can share your experience with us and also like some kind of insights about the this new baby of your former team.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's really nice to see the Dream team back together again, I must admit. I'm very happy that the game is finally available and that we're launching it today. I think it's a great teamwork. It was a tremendous achievement. I was not alone in pulling all the resources. We've been really working, all together in it to make sure that it will fit every HRD's context, that it will match also what we used to display in training. So at ODR, I was one of a trainer, and the most common feedback that we will get out of this training was, okay, when is the next one? Can I send my whole team? I want to do it again. And so this is exactly what we hope this game is going to achieve. It's really the ability to, whenever you want, either refresh your memory on human rights monitoring, but also maybe training your own team, foster maybe discussion in your team. Maybe there were some aspects of the training that you never really, catch or comprehend or apply, and you can now do it with the game. So it's a really cool opportunity. It's a very nice tool to use, even for experienced human rights defenders. I remember when we were doing it with the team members, sometimes we even were like, should I pick this answer or maybe this one? It's nice also to confront a bit the learning that you have accumulated. And for those who are going to play for the first time, you will see that the game also embeds the storyline, and you're going to make a lot of choices. But then it also sends you to additional resources that you can, click on and learn a bit more. So that's how you go a bit beyond the game as well. So yeah, I hope everybody's going to like it. As Joanna mentioned, please, whenever you played, send us feedback. Send the team feedback. It's extremely interesting to see what works, what doesn't work, what you would want to see a bit modified. It's a community tool, so we build it for the community, with the community, and we hope that this will continue. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Marin. So the tool has been created for human rights defenders, for them to learn very important lessons about safety, about how to do the job in a secure environment. And now we have Vesta Gunchenko, human rights activist from Ukraine, who has been part of the feedback sessions and workshops. And actually she is representing the audience of this game. Vesta, if you can join us and tell us how you see your colleagues using this tool. I would have the same question as I had with Joanna, like what is the biggest value of this game from your perspective?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Like, I'm so happy to see all the team and new people here. It's very cool, and I actually can't believe that this is happening. When you see the result, I remember this like first beta version of the game, and we were playing it, and it was like so exciting, and I got so much I don't know, like suspense in this game actually. And like I think this game has like two main values. First one is like what we started with. Actually, we had a problem on a panel discussion discussing like what can we do to make as much human rights defenders or human rights activists take the safety lessons, because like ODIHR or another organizations can afford like, I don't know, 25, 50, 100 per year, which is like nothing. It's peanuts if we talk about all the people who are defending human rights all over the world. And most of them actually can't go to Warsaw or California or whatever to learn something about this. So that was the idea, how to create this, not just a textbook, for example, like it can be done, but we know that a lot of people will not read any textbooks. So, and we came up with this idea, like, let's make a game. And I just still can't believe that it happens, actually. And we are making this game. And which is important, I think everyone can use this, because I remember when we were starting with all the trainings before, we were trained human rights defenders, but how many stupid mistakes we were doing. Like, I remember I was crossing the border with Russia, like having documents, printed documents, confirming that I'm a human rights defender and I'm not like allowed to do something. So, and I was lucky enough, so they didn't they got all the investigation in our car, but they didn't find it. But if they would find that, it wouldn't be a game for me. Like, I would end up in a prison or something like this. And this is so cool when you can use this in the game, and in this game punishment or this result, it comes it's like anyway, you will get the result, the sad result of being not accurate or something like this. And this is really cool thing. Like, this makes you think, because you keep doing stupid things until you getting not lucky. And this better happen in the game, not in the real life. So I think it's going to be a really cool thing for everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vesta. So the like the best value of the game is to let the human rights defenders to fail in a safe environment. When we are talking about safety, I think we should ask Andrej Lederer to join us. He is the Senior Advocacy Officer at the Hungarian Helsinki Committee, and he has been contributing to the game from his experience, wide experience of being a human rights defender, especially in complex situations. So Andrej, could you tell us what would be your recommendation for the people who are responsible for training human rights defenders? Do you think the game can fully replace these formal trainings, or it can be some kind of complementary component? Like, how do you see this process of a small organization taking up this game as the training tool internally?
Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for not just for having me today, but for having me involved in this whole process. It was one of the most exciting things I've participated in during the past couple of years, and I have done some stuff, so I really mean this. And I will actually use it at the Hungarian Helsinki Committee for future new colleagues who would go on the field, because yes, as Vesta said, there are textbooks available. There are a lot of information freely available on the web when you look for it. But it's one thing to read a description about something and read advices. And it's completely different when you are playing a game and you actually try it yourself, and you immediately see the potential mistakes you can make. A lot of these things, one of my favorite part about the game is the discussion panels. And when you start playing the game, and you'll see that you have so many options, and there are so many ways to actually make a mistake that you don't necessarily think about beforehand, that, oh, that's something I should pay attention to. And this one teaches you in a very exciting, but also in a very detailed way. So yes, I definitely recommend. I think one of the biggest challenges when I contributed to the game and to the storyboard and the scenarios was oh, and let's put that thing into that, and let's try to teach that idea, and let's have something where, you know, they have to try out this and that skill. And that there are so many things you could actually put into such a game that you thought, oh my God, this is going to be so complex. It's never going to work. Nobody's going to understand. Nobody's going to enjoy. And I think it's amazing what Benetech and the developers, and also Spencer is not here, but Spencer and everyone else put into this to make it such an accessible, exciting. So it's not, you know, that super boring basic stuff where you just actually go through and nothing really happens. So yes, this is definitely something I'm going to share with my own colleagues, but that I also believe should be a kind of compulsory part of any other kind of training, because this is something that people, after the 45-minute, 2-hour long training is over, they can go home, and every now and then, whenever they have 50 minutes or an afternoon on a rainy Saturday, they can just start playing this and go back and see. So I'm really excited, and I'm very glad that I've been part of this.
Thank you, Andras, for your contribution and for your insights now. And back to David now. David, Andras mentioned that the human rights defenders can go back to this game and replay it after a certain amount of time. I'm wondering if you have certain plans for the game, like what is next, if there will be like some new editions of the game, like with new topics, like new scenarios, in order to reinforce these ideas of safety and important concepts even among the experienced human rights defenders. As a few speakers today mentioned, that even for them it has been some kind of valuable experience, because maybe in certain cases we, despite our experience, do not know what is the wrong and right answer. So what is the next for the game?
Yeah, well, let me just say this is, I'm really happy to have the whole team, I would say, here, and to discuss in this way. It's quite an emotional moment in a way. So it's kind of also get together, not only a launch, but they all know, and we all know that you know, this is actually one episode of the game, and you will see it. And it took quite a while to work, and sometimes, you know, tears and suffering from all of us. But you know, we got this. We got episode 1. I always make this joke that we're like the guys who did Star Wars. We start with episode 2. So, but there's 4 more episodes, and why we have these episodes, I want to get into that, because it connects to what Andras said. This episode really covers 2 aspects of our general training. The information gathering through various means. I don't want to go more into detail because I would spoil, and Alvaro, who's here with us, is going to play it live soon. But let me just say, information gathering and also verification and bits and pieces of the security aspects, not all the security aspects. And actually, there's 4 more episodes that we should develop, that we want to develop, which cover everything from, you know, learning more about the human rights framework, kind of getting, and that was quite a challenge. I can see, you know, we were here with Marin, with Mattia and others, and we were like thinking, how can we get this very boring learning process of books and you know, the conventions and whatnot, and make it more exciting. And I think Mattia came with some really great ideas, but again, no spoilers. So yeah, that's episode 1, and then we would go for episode 3, 4, and 5 to cover advocacy, to cover more of the safety and security, to cover structuring, how you structure that information, how you put it out. There are some very interesting things out there, you know, how you can put the information out, particularly in today's environment where, you know, you have information coming from anywhere, you have disinformation. How do you make something that you put out there relevant and people listening to it, especially about human rights violations? So quite a lot of challenges, even in that terms. And how do we teach those things about advocacy about going out. And there are some interesting examples. If we'd have a lot of time, I would go into them, but maybe just to mention that we were thinking that information can be put out there in stages, and then it would be denied by governments and others, and then then you can release another set of evidence which helps your case and whatnot. And all the end, and in the background, there's still the story of our heroes that you will see in the game as well. So yeah, we do have plans to continue. At ODIHR, it's definitely a project that we want to go forward with. I do have to maybe also manage expectations here that funding is not always easy. I hope that the launch and human rights defenders starting to use this, as Andrej mentioned, and Diesta and the others, and actually getting back to us and showing, hey guys, this is actually working for us. It's something that is useful for us. That can help, garner more support to ODIHR, to Benetech, maybe, and we're building this open source, and it's also out for the community of game developers and others there. I want to, Spencer was with us voluntarily, Tyler and others. Like Tyler worked a lot, a really long time, and put so much effort all for free for our game. So a lot of thanks there. And if there are people out there who want to get in the project like this, it would help us a lot. So my hope is, we are going to push this from our side. Benetech, I know that they are also proud of this project and they want to do the same. But I hope that this community of people who want to work on this project can enlarge.
Wonderful. And I think now it is time to actually get to the play. And I would ask Alvaro. Yeah, David, please.
Yeah. Just I want to before. So Alvaro is a colleague of ours. He's working now at ODIHR, and he never played the game. He will have to play it. I already told him play it as you would. Don't worry about what happens in it. So we're excited to see that. But I do want to mention a few more people that were really important to make this happen. Omer Fisher, our former heads of department, Jennifer Croft, also deputy head of department, Katarzyna Gardapaze, she also supported quite a lot from our management. Colleagues from the work, Tatiana Kotlarenko, Griffin Ferry, Stephanie Selg, and many others who who helped with their expertise, with their capacity towards this. And maybe Rachel, I think maybe she also would like to mention some of her colleagues who were also part of this project. And otherwise there's the credits there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think important credit goes to our early development team who are no longer on Benetech staff, but put lots of hours in designing the mechanisms and making this a reality. So their names are in the credits, and we're really grateful to all of their hard work on this project.
Great. So is it now finally time to play? David,
yeah, over to you, Alvaro. Over to you, Alvaro.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. As David mentioned, yeah, I have the chance of working with some of these people. I know what amazing professionals they are and how much time they have spent on this. So thank you for inviting me at this important time and to really see how the game goes. So I'm starting it now. I will share my screen in a second. Can you see it and hear it? Okay, so let's. Okay. So I go to the hospital with everything, with the laptop. So I access the laptop, investigating on the stadium, rumors of corruption and work reviews. Okay. Human rights. So I'm reading this in the hospital. Okay. There are human rights violations. Mr. X actually witnessed some of the worker mistreatment. Okay, so I have to meet Mr. X. Supervisor, okay, she makes sure I'm safe. You tell her what happened to Stefan. Okay.
Maybe just to say that all this black text is placeholder for episode 1.
Yeah, man. I'm starting to Stefan family. Great communication right now. Do I know this Anna person from before? Yeah, I guess. Possible human rights violations. Okay, restriction of movement. Secure communication channels and choose a safe location. Okay. Oh, I have nice hands. I have a rifle. Thank you. You too. Okay, so I can interrupt it. Is it my laptop or is it his laptop?
You need some hints from the game creators.
Need to find out. Can't tell you.
Okay. I heard you were telling Stefan of human rights abuses, probably not. Stefan told me information about working conditions in the stadium. Stefan asked me to reach out to you, so I'll shoot you a message. Can we meet tomorrow in the park? Yes, can we meet tomorrow in the park? Yeah, okay, fine. My bad. Did I die now? Okay, so try again, right? Yes. I just feel I'm going to fail again. Stefan, I have some important information. Yes, that seems very neutral. Oh, good. Okay, sorry. I guess. Good. Yay, achievement.
Wow.
Yay. Okay,
Well
well,
done.
50%.
Well,
It's
you
good. I'm happy.
That's some homework.
Yeah, okay, that's probably a good idea.
Ooh, I love the map.
Okay. Okay, got the information. Okay. Wait. That looks like Mr. X, okay. Doesn't seem like a very professional reason to reset that's a good friend of mine, I guess. we promise that. We don't really know that. I don't know if it's that. Always good to ask for that, I guess. Oh wait, I don't want to promise anything that I can deliver. I don't want to minimize the thing. This one, no? Okay, can I take it? It's a bit spicy. What if somebody can't have anything?
Bravo.
Yay. Okay. I think it's horrible the way your company is taking workers. Probably not. The main goal is to get specific, complete information. I guess I should start with my own about myself. It's very hard to organize it. Good here. Really good now. I want to. Which government officials or company officers? No. Trafficking, street labor, I don't think he necessarily knows the term. Are the conditions very bad? For example, people living not in the hospital. You already know that. Arrange the poor conditions in the work site, more about that. In particular, about the situation of people in the work. That's not helpful for me. I will need to look at the violations, probably not, because he's maybe. Any more about his father, and share some specifics about vaccination. The second one, I'm also they sometimes find it, but it's can you share some specifics about the bad conditions? I do want to know more. Okay, but maybe you can. Agents together. What makes you think that the government and the company are aware of this issue? That already know who's in charge of the work site? Yes. that really sounds like it's going to end up badly for him. What happened to the worker that you mentioned? You tell me more about the accident. What happened to the worker lady? So I can also talk to this person. Oh no, please the details of the charity and so to help him. Okay. Kind of sucks that he wants to be anonymous, but he gives his coworkers and is very free. Good interview.
Good job. Wonderful. So Alvaro, if you can please stop the screen share.
Yes.
We not to spoil everything for the audience because we will be sharing the link of the game with them and they can continue playing. But we would ask you to please continue playing, and then once you finish, you will join our discussion and you will share your impressions with us. Okay?
Okay, so I'll mute myself and take on my video then.
Yes, and we can see like. Be seeing your excited face when you get through all these challenges of being a human rights defender. So guys, we got a glimpse of what the game is like, how we get all these badges after getting the correct answer, or actually what some of the panelists have been mentioning, failing safely, so making mistakes and learning from those mistakes. So if you can tell us how you are planning to actually distribute this game to the organizations and individuals who are actually going to use and learn from this experience. We have some people joining us live and they have been sending us some very useful feedback, some questions, but I wonder if you have some kind of plan proactively to involve and engage other human rights defenders in this game.
I know, maybe I'll try to answer. So the idea with this demo, with this launch, is that we will share very shortly the link to the game. It's very easy to access via link, and our colleagues from Benetech have made that available. We're gonna put that either in the YouTube chat and also post it up here. Maybe we can pin it also in the YouTube comments. So that's just as a first thing. People who now were watching, they can get back to this, and maybe on the video as it states on YouTube. But we will also do a bit more targeted outreach, because ODIHR has a network of organizations of human rights defenders that we've been working with. I think Benetech as well, in other parts of the world or regions that we don't cover. And we're gonna more directly provide this as a tool, together with some user cases where can you use this, as a standalone as it is now. I mentioned that the other episodes are not yet developed, but it can already be used as a standalone. And I've used it with Marine and with some colleagues in the trainings that we've done. So we've done some trainings for human rights defenders, or even in some cases for government officials, because it's often important to the target of human rights advocacy to also see what it means to gather evidence about human rights, and that it's not, that it's often a dangerous or even a complicated and hard work. So I've been using it in that settings, and for the human rights defenders that want to use this, I definitely see this as something used in combination with in-classroom training. So you can use it as a test tool as well. you do a training and then you can say, here, test your knowledge by playing the game. Let's see how many of this mission failed you have. Or it can be used, Andrej was mentioning, but I'd rather leave this to the team, to them to also think about the user cases they thought about. Was mentioning that, new colleagues in an organization that maybe we don't have time to train, or maybe we don't have the possibility to send them to somebody's training or the time. This is also a good tool to kind of get them started. So these are just my 2 cents. So we will have very, Central Asia, all the OSCE area that we cover, we will have more direct reach out to individual organizations as well as human rights defenders.
And have you tested like a few teams playing like group decisions rather than like individual, or you see that it's like more individual game?
Mattia has tested some of this in some settings with human rights defenders, the EU NGO Forum. Maybe I'll let him share a bit of that, and also the other colleagues here, they can also share their experience with testing and.
So Mattia, yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, the question about like how the testers experienced the game.
No, just the question is like, if I am if I'm an organization and I have human rights defenders in my team, would it make sense me to ask them to play it individually, or maybe I could set up like a group play, like we would play all together, or maybe like I would group people, like 2 or 3 people going through the entire game together, because like shared experience might also have some kind of like additional benefits, if you have some recommendations.
Yeah, for sure. Although the game is a bit personalizable, as in like it makes you like choose how you want to approach the various situations. So of course, for the individual growth, it will be good to play it by yourself, so you understand what is the thinking process that maybe led you to a wrong result. But in the end, of course, also doing it in groups, it prevents you from maybe doing those errors in the first place, and it's always, I mean, a positive process anyway. So I would advise it in any way, really. The test that we run, most of them were on an individual basis, but also the ones that we've done in small groups, they also worked quite fine, in my opinion. So yeah.
And Andino there, I think one of the best things about this, whether you play individually or play as a group, is the discussion that happens afterwards as well. The idea is that the scales and folks can do it on their own, but I think as integrated into a more organized training for folks who do have that opportunity, there's some really rich discussions that come out of both when people failed and when they succeeded, and sort of sharing their decision-making process and their experience of the game. And so even if people play alone, or if they play in a group, the discussion that happens afterwards about the decisions that are made, about the situation, about how it relates to the context in which those individuals work, are really fruitful. And I think that's maybe one of the added bonuses of being able to interact with other players.
Marin, you wanted to comment?
I would like to add something.
Yes,
I really
Joanna,
what Rachel says in that sense. And I think a beautiful thing about the game is it highlights the specific decision-making points where things can go wrong or right, or what to take care of in the methodology process. And so I think the discussions, everybody has kind of these experiences and shares it in everyday life, but we don't really necessarily pay attention to the details. And so the game guides this and drives this point home to really in a very aware manner look at these decisions, and that happens in the discussion. So we had a couple of group testing sessions, and that is really something I observed, that like Rachel said, the conversation and the spotlight on these specific decision points is then another learning moment. And I got feedback from a variety of human rights defenders, including Emmanuel, who's unfortunately not here, but thank you, who says like, this is a perfect tool to work with volunteers, with volunteer-based organizations that have large crowds of people to really get like a basic awareness and develop a very basic skill set that can be used at day one, basically.
Thank you, Joanna. Andrej, please.
And then on top of that, to add on what Joe was saying, I think it's really useful for smaller groups as well, because if you play together and you discuss your decisions before you actually make them, you actually learn the personality, the attitude, the I don't know, risk taking likeliness of your colleagues, and you better understand how you actually work as a team. So I think it's also very useful in these kind of settings to learn a lot of things about each other without really taking a risk that you would do if you would have to find out these attitudes on the field.
Thank you, Andrej. Mari, finally, if you want to join us with the sound on right now.
Sorry. No, actually then pretty much everything has been said, but just to wrap up on this idea, because we were, asked earlier whether this could actually replace a training. And I think, everything that Rachel, Joe, and Andrej and Matja were highlighting is the added value is really giving the space for this discussion. So it's not by playing the game alone that suddenly you will become certified as a human rights monitor, but this is providing you the tools, and it's a toolbox in itself to allow you to go a bit beyond, and then to confront ideas with your peers, with your colleagues. So I think it even makes a bit more sense when it's not just played alone, so that the whole team can actually benefit of it, and your reflection on it as well, because I'm pretty much sure that sometimes you will disagree with the answers in the game. What you have seen now in this first part was really like the question and response. And I'm sure that based on your different context, different experience, there would be ways of disagreement. And I think that's where lies the interest in this game. And also just to also add one more point, there were a question on the chat about the format of the game, and it's not only about just question and answer. You will see that there is other small games, and then that you've been asked to go a little bit more into your handbook. So that was just a glimpse that you have seen, but I really encourage you to go and to play by yourself. The link was shared now on YouTube, and please go wild and send us feedback.
Oh, thank you, Marin. Rachel, I have a few technical questions. So there has also been a comment in the comments of the live. Have you considered some accessibility issues while designing the game, or if it's in the pipeline, or what are the challenges that we might encounter regarding accessibility when it comes to game design, like, for example, visual, like for people with special needs, if you are planning, or if there are some measures already in the game. Okay, once you answer this question, I have like a few more other questions, some technical ones.
Sure. So yeah, my apologies also for this session, should have had closed captioning, but I think really important lessons learned for us around trying to make a game like this accessible. We will, in future episodes, we will be able to integrate those much more effectively. And I think this is a big learning for us around how to build a game and juggle all of the sort of elements we've discussed, as well as making it accessible. There are folks who have done really great work around making games accessible, and that sort of inclusive design of how do you design things to be played by as many people as possible, really add value and richness to the way that we put together the game mechanics, but at this point, we have lots of goals to improve the accessibility of the current game.
So like some of the speakers mentioned that during the testing, they observed that sharing the experience and discussions has been a very valuable part of this entire experience. I wonder, like, especially now because of the pandemics and everything has moved to digital field, is there some digital space around the game where even people who do not know each other, but they have played the same game, they could share some of the experiences, some notes, comments about the game and scenarios? Is there anything like that, or it's just like you come play and you leave the game? So is there a digital, Rachel, is there a digital space somewhere where the gamers can actually share and interact?
So not currently. There's ODIHR has some stuff in the works that may be supportive, particularly to the communities that they serve. But I think one of the things that we've done to really allow us to get feedback from folks is that there's a survey. So if you do play the game, please fill out the survey and give us a sense of, as David said, what the value was to you. And that feedback will be really helpful as we sort of try to meet some of these goals we have around expanding and improving. I think I'd love for there to be a space that pops up around discussing this and hearing about both the value that it brings to teams as they train, as well as people who've enjoyed the game in maybe other contexts as well.
Right.
I want to jump here, Nino, really quickly, because you asked about accessibility, but one thing we are also having in the plans is localization. So for now, the game is in English and kind of for an English-speaking audience, but we also work quite a lot in Central Asia, post-Soviet space and other areas. So we will be looking. For us, the priority is, let's call it Russian localization is something, because it's not just translation, it's a bit more than that, is something that it's a priority.
Wonderful, thank you very much. So we have observed very positive comments in the live. So I guess some organizations might be picking up on this idea and trying to tackle similar projects in the future. I want to ask Joanna if she could share some lessons learned while working on the projects like this.
My pleasure. This was probably the biggest lesson, my professional lesson ever. But I think there are a couple of things that I would really like to share for human rights defenders, but also for funders out there. I think one of the things we really learned is that creating technology for human rights work is a creative process. It's not infrastructure, and it requires flexibility. And there needs to be space to go back to the drawing board and say it didn't work. Because one of the real things that we learned on this journey is essentially that we tried to not only build human rights content, but use a methodology that kind of follows our values as well. So we were trying in all of this process to have a strong level of participation, co-creation, have beneficiaries in the room, test our assumptions, test whether what we believe, what we think of, and what this great scenario would that actually work? And sometimes Andrej would be like, nah, that's not how reality is, right? So all of this process requires the space to maneuver, to be like, maybe it takes much longer than planned, and this needs to be planned for. So I think this is a really, really important takeaway, that this flexibility needs to be there. I also think in the current context and discussions we have about monopolizing tech, about closed code, this game shows you can do it differently. It takes time, but if there is intent and there's planning, you can build open source, community-driven, co-created technology that follows a value set that we believe in. And I think that makes the difference. And I would be really happy if anybody out there thinks of projects like this, just invite the people into the room. It's you have to try and fail. It's you have to sometimes just be brave and be like, oh, okay, maybe, and then it might work, it might not work, but we are all probably, I'll just speak for all now, happy, for example, to talk things through and to play these ideas, because I think for a increasing digitalization also of the civil society field, the factor that we build tech as we would like to see our values represented is a really important aspect. And this project really gave me the tools and the learning, for example, how to set something up like this. And I'm super grateful for this. And thank you to everybody out there who had not the chance to be named in person for all these hours of testing and feedback and checking our assumptions and being there and returning and doing all these tests and surveys to make this actually possible. So without all of this input, and all of this ongoing feedback together, we would not be here today. So this is really something that's a big takeaway.
Thank you, Joanna. I would like to ask Tyler, as a game developer, like what would be your kind of like shared experience, like the experience you want to share with the other game developers who may be most like, they have not become game developers because they want to work on the social projects like this probably. But from time to time, it's good to get them in our field, get their skills, like share our vision, like work together. And maybe like how, maybe you can give us some insights. How could we make these type of games more attractive for game developers, especially experienced ones, and experienced in the commercial and entertainment games, obviously. Like how can it work for the tech guys?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think inherently it's a really interesting problem that's trying to be solved here, and something that a lot of people can get behind. My cat's joining me. But so I think like inherently, if you bring a bunch of talented people who are passionate about the subject together, I think a lot of developers, a lot of people out there would be interested in coming onto a project like this. I mean, when I was introduced to it, yeah, I took the afternoon off work to come down and hear about it and talk about it, because it just sounded really interesting. It sounded like something I could maybe help with. So I think, you know, it helps the fact that there's a real mission here and a real thing that's like being targeted that's really tangible and a lot of people would like to help with. So I think that helps a lot. And then I'd say as far as development and some kind of like takeaways there is like, when I came on, it was really important to me that I was here to kind of help solve, how do you actually build this game? Like from my perspective, being in game development, like how would I recommend going about this and pulling it together, and you know, what learnings can I bring from my experience making games? I thought it was really important that the tools that were being used made it also easy for Rachel and the team of development to be able to iterate on the actual design. Because just as Joanna was saying, there's a tendency to do things what's called in software development as a waterfall, which means like you come with this design totem and you're like, okay, here's this perfect game. We got it on paper. We've been working on this paper for, you know, a year, and go build this now. But it really needs to be more flexible than that. And, you know, the team needs to be able to iterate. They need to be able to do these things and turn on a dime. And so you can't do things in a really rigid structure. And so I thought it was really important, and it became obvious when I first came on, that the tool set and the things that are set to build this, and even the type of game, is something that can easily be changed after some feedback. And so hence dialogue and this mini game approach. I think it worked well in that the mini games are modular, the dialogue can be iterated on, the solutions can be easily changed. You can use node-based builders and things like that. So, you know, Rachel could actually like lay out nodes and give them to a developer, and they're pretty close to what they'll be working with. So I think those are two really big takeaways about how I'd say going about tackling it from a developer's perspective. And then on the other side, how I would say to go about it from the other perspective when you're not used to building games. You need to be ready to be able to be flexible, I guess I would say. And the developer needs to make sure they give you the tools to be flexible.
And be patient. Thank you very much, Tyler. So Alvaro has finished the game, and so tell us, how was it?
It was very good. I've actually learned a lot. I didn't know the way that I was going to develop, and I was surprised because I thought that everything. I don't want to spoil anything, right? I can't like, but so it's not always like only multiple choice, and so there's like much more variety, which I really enjoyed. I thought, I don't know what I can spoil or not spoil, but it was super informative actually, and there were many things that it's like very like real life situations that could easily happen. And some of the options are like, for example, at some point, I think this was while I was playing, like Tony says something terrible, and he's like, one of the options is like hack him, and you want to hack him, right? But I guess you can't. Maybe that's because I'm Spanish, but for me that was like the thing to do, but of course you can't. And then yeah, when you have to choose what you're wearing or whatever, so I would just do this like very minor spoiler. You have to choose what you're wearing, and one of the options is a mask. And because of the context, right? I was like, yeah, of course, like a mask. And the message was like, you don't need to disguise yourself. I'm like, that kind of mask, right? So yeah, you might want to take that into account because people are wearing masks now. What else? But yeah, I really like all the options, and yeah, and also I think that I would have failed definitely more like just a few months ago before I joined Todir. So even though I don't work with human rights defenders, I feel like, and I think there are many issues that I surely didn't get or didn't realize because I don't work in this field specifically, but I do think that many important issues were touched. So yeah, thank you for letting me play.
Thank you, Alvaro. I think his comment, the comment about the mask is very, very relevant for now. David, I think we can wrap up our discussion. I would just have one last question from my side to you. Like, do you have any certain like KPIs, how many plays you want to have in the next few months in order to consider this project successful, or you are just like following the free flow of the life of the game?
No, I mean, I don't think we have a target. I think, as I said, I think for us, what's important, this is not. It's a human rights game. It's a learning game. It's built for the people who need it. So obviously, we want that those who need it and those who would like to also have fun with it. But yeah, I mean, we did have this conversation apropos of the iterative process that was explained here, in which one of the testers said, this game has a serious case of schizophrenia because it doesn't know its identity. What is this? Is this like a message game? Is it something that you want to put out there to communicate more about the importance of human rights, or this is a learning game? And we had to take that decision at the time. Rachel remembers. We had to go, okay, and obviously we wanted both. We wanted to make it very fun and very exciting and message game and whatnot. And there are others out there, but we had to go for the learning game. So in that sense, it's not about we have to have millions of users. We want that this tool reaches the users that need it, and hopefully also inspire some other people. Is this the wrap up, or do you have other questions? Because I do want to.
This is wrap up, so you can.
Okay, so I do want to also extend some further thanks, Natalia and Alvaro. Natalia has been here with us, and she was really instrumental in and very keen and very excited about. We were both very excited about this conversation and bringing this demo and launch together with Rachel. Alvaro, thanks a lot for being here and for playing. And I did have a long list. I do want to also thank Emmanuel Sherwin, who was also part of one of the human rights defenders who was part of the workshops and the initial development of this, with a lot of insights. Claire Falconer, Starlight Stadium comes from her. She's a legal expert who helped us, to tweak things like, is this the correct, is this the correct case? Andrew Sodrowski, who helped us with this script to make it like more exciting and not just a boring story. Yeah, I think the list can continue, but I do want to mention some of these very, very key people who worked on this, and thank everybody who's here and all the human rights defenders that helped with testing and gave us their feedback. It was crucial for this process. So that.
Thank you, everyone. You have created an amazing tool. I played it during the one of the testing sessions, and now that I was watching Alvaro, I could see like how it had like improved from that time to now, and I would actually like really replay again to rehash some of my skills. And as I have journalistic background, I'm not like a everyday human rights defender. I found that some of the topics, issues discussed in this game can actually be applicable for journalists and media representatives as well. And these days, like all of us are activists and information gatherers and spreaders, so it is applicable for everyone. So no matter what your title might be, I would encourage you to take around 40 minutes, right, for the game and get through this exciting experience. Thank you, team. And I hope we will have a similar events in the future with the new editions of the game.